She was feared by American soldiers like no one else in the Vietnam War.
In the thick shadows of Vietnam's jungle, a name echoed that even seasoned Marines feared. They called her Apache, the most feared woman of the Vietnam War. This is the hunt that turned into legend. Morning mist blanketed Hill 55, wrapping the trees and camp in a ghostly fog. Gunnery Sergeant Carlos Hathcock wiped the damp off his rifle scope. His weathered face showed nothing as he scanned the tree line. 8 miles outside Da Nang, this hilltop should have been safe. But lately, no one slept easy. Something, or someone, was out there. Another one last night, Captain Edward Jim Land said softly, handing Hathcock a mug of bitter coffee. Private Mendez, perimeter, 1 shot, forehead, 600 yards minimum. Hathcock nodded without a word. This wasn't typical Viet Cong work, the precision, the patience. It had a signature he recognized. For weeks, Marines had been whispering about the most terrifying woman of the war. A sniper, half Vietnamese, half French. They called her Apache, not just for her deadly aim, but for what she did to those she captured alive. The 5th Regiment, 1st Marine Division, had grown fearful of the area near Duc Pho. South Vietnamese forces had shared reports of a female Viet Cong operative who seemed to enjoy inflicting pain. At first, the stories sounded too awful to be real. Then the bodies started showing up, mutilated in ways that matched the darkest rumors. She quickly became a high-priority target. Land spoke low, making sure no nearby Marines could overhear. They're calling her Apache because of... He trailed off, motioning toward his eyes. Hathcock understood. Intelligence had confirmed it. She took gruesome trophies, eyelids. His jaw clenched at the thought. She's using a Mosin Nagant with a scope, Land added. Russian, 7.62 millimeters. Hathcock lifted his binoculars and slowly scanned the far ridges. Decent rifle, he said. Not as good as mine. A young Marine walked up, clearly nervous, face pale under a layer of jungle sweat and dirt. Gunny, Captain. Lieutenant needs you at command. A scout came in, says he's got info. His voice dropped. About her. As Hathcock and Land walked to the command tent, Hathcock noticed how the younger Marines looked at him. Part hope, part desperation. They needed to believe someone could stop what Apache had started on Hill 55. Inside the command post, Lieutenant Colonel Davidson leaned over a field map laid across a crate. His fingers traced the hills and jungle valleys around Hill 55, pausing at points already marked with notes and coordinates. When Hathcock and Land walked in, Davidson straightened up. His red, tired eyes showed how long he'd gone without sleep. "Gentlemen," he said with a nod, "our scout brought something you need to see." In the corner stood a South Vietnamese ranger, his uniform streaked with dried mud. At Davidson's signal, he stepped forward and placed a handful of photos on the table. "Taken near a village 3 clicks east," Davidson explained. "Recon got these before they had to pull out." The grainy black and white shots showed a few Viet Cong moving through thick jungle. In one, half hidden by leaves, was a small figure holding a rifle with a clear scope. A woman, her face showed both Vietnamese and French features. Even with the poor image quality, her calm expression stood out in a chilling way. "That's her," Land said. "Apache." Hathcock leaned in, studying the photo. "She's tiny, can't weigh more than 100 pounds. Easy to overlook." Davidson's face was grim. "That's what makes her one of the most dangerous out here. You don't see it until it's too late." The scout spoke up, his English rough but understandable. "She moved camp every 2-3 days. Very careful, very smart." He tapped another photo that showed a crude shelter. "She not like others. VC, scared of her too." Land gave him a surprised look. "Her own people fear her?" The scout nodded quickly. "She like pain, not just for answers, for... He paused, then quietly added, pleasure. The room went silent. Hathcock had faced many enemies, but something about Apache felt different. Most people killed because they had to. Orders, survival. But everything about her pointed to something else. A weapon shaped to terrorize. We've built a file on her, Davidson said, sliding a folder over. This is everything we've got. She was born in Hanoi. Her father was a French colonial official, her mother Vietnamese. She joined the Viet Cong early and stood out fast as a sharpshooter and interrogator. She's 31, with at least 27 confirmed kills in this area. Hathcock flipped through the folder, skimming reports. Captured VC told stories that made it clear. Apache wasn't just feared by Marines. Even her side kept their distance. Why us, though? Hathcock asked. Davidson didn't hesitate. She lost family in a strike near Da Nang last year. Civilian casualties. A village suspected of hiding VC. Since then, she's locked in on U.S. troops, especially the 5th Regiment. Land flipped through more photos. The bodies in them showed clear signs of Apache's brutal methods. She's stepping it up, he said. Taking more risks. Davidson nodded. Exactly. This isn't just about taking out another sniper. She's pulling this whole unit apart. We have to end it before she breaks their will to fight. Hathcock closed the folder, face unreadable. We'll need to set up observation posts. Watch approach routes. Look for patterns. Already marked the best spots, Land replied, pointing to several locations on the map. High ground here, and here gives us coverage over the main travel paths, Land said, pointing to 2 ridgelines. The scout stepped in again, gesturing to a valley between them. She likes this area. Good water, easy to hide, many caves. Davidson gave a firm nod. You'll have whatever support you need. This mission's top priority, straight from Da Nang Command. As they stepped out of the command post, the weight of the assignment hit Hathcock hard. This wasn't just another mission. This was about holding the line mentally and emotionally. All around them, the Marines at Hill 55 moved with an edge of nervousness, jumping at small noises, eyes darting. Days of deadly ambushes and bodies brought back with horrible injuries had worn them thin. They need a win, Carlos, Land said quietly as they gathered their gear. These kids need to feel like they can fight back. Hathcock gave his Winchester Model 70 a quick check, the solid feel of it grounding him. Then let's give them one. Over the next 3 days, they settled into a rhythm. Every morning before daylight, they'd move into position at one of their observation spots. Sometimes they'd stay in one place for 18 hours without moving, just watching, waiting. Hathcock's patience was legendary. He could stay still longer than most men could even stay awake. On the 4th day, they finally saw movement. A small patrol worked its way along a stream, careful to stay hidden under the trees. Through his scope, Hathcock counted 5 figures. But none of them were her. Spotters, Land whispered. She sends them first to make sure it's safe. Hathcock nodded slowly. She'll be behind them. The question is, when? The answer came that night, in a way neither of them expected. Just after midnight, the screams started. Hathcock sat up fast in his cot, instantly alert. The sound of someone in pain echoed across the valley, loud enough for the whole base to hear. Land was already pulling on his boots. "She's sending a message," he said, tight with anger. The screaming went on all night, sometimes stopping for long stretches, which somehow made it worse. The Marines on guard duty stood frozen, pale in the moonlight. Nobody needed to say what was happening. Apache had captured one of their own and was showing everyone exactly why her name was feared. "Who's missing?" Hathcock asked the lieutenant on duty, voice low, steady. But his eyes burned with anger. The lieutenant, hands trembling, scanned the list. "Private Johnson. He was out with Ramirez. Ramirez came back with a graze on his arm, said they were ambushed, thought Johnson was right behind him. Hathcock and Land locked eyes. They both understood. Apache had left Ramirez alive on purpose, so he could tell the others. Her cruelty wasn't just physical, it was strategic, as sharp and precise as her rifle. "We can't charge in blind," Land warned, as some Marines started getting their gear together. "That's what she wants, an emotional reaction, a bunch of angry kids rushing out with no plan." "So we just listen while he dies?" a young corporal asked, his voice rising. His face was red with frustration and fear. Hathcock placed a steady hand on the corporal's shoulder. "We listen, we learn, and we make sure she pays for it, but we do it the right way." Dawn came with an eerie, unnatural quiet. As Hathcock and Land got ready to lead a patrol, a shout from a sentry pulled them toward the eastern edge of the camp. Someone was stumbling out of the jungle. Even from far away, Hathcock could see the blood. "Cover me," he said, and before Land could stop him, he was already running. The Marine collapsed just a few yards from him. What had been done to the young private was beyond understanding. His eyes were closed in death, but his eyelids were still there. A final cruel twist, showing he'd been conscious until the very end. Hathcock knelt beside the body, a cold, locked-in feeling settling deep in his chest. This wasn't just war anymore. This was something darker. The Marine couldn't have been older than 19. "We find her today," Hathcock said as Land caught up. His tone left no room for argument. Back inside the command tent, Davidson was hunched over the map again, his eyes sharp. "She's playing with us," he said, letting us know how close she can get without being stopped. "She wants us to come for her," Land agreed. "She's probably already set up ambushes, expecting we'll come in full force." Hathcock pointed to a spot on the map. "Then we don't give her what she expects, just the two of us. Light, fast." Davidson looked up quickly. "You're talking 2 men against her whole team?" "2 hunters," Hathcock said flatly. "Against prey that doesn't know it's being hunted yet." Land nodded. "Carlos is right. A full patrol will give us away. She'll hear us coming. But 2? She won't expect that. Not now." Davidson paused, thinking it through. "You've got 12 hours, he said. "If you're not back by then, I'm sending in everything we've got, ambush or not." They left within the hour, carrying only what they needed: rifles, ammo, water, and rations. No radios to risk detection, no extra weight to slow them down. Hathcock led, following the faint blood trail Johnson had left behind as Apache's unit dragged him through the jungle. The trail would vanish at times, washed out by streams or masked by dry ground, but Hathcock followed the signs: bent twigs, scuffed dirt, displaced stones. He read the forest like a trained tracker. By midday, they had moved nearly 4 kilometers in silence. "They're slipping," Land whispered during a brief stop. He pointed to a few cigarette butts left near a hidden rest spot. "Overconfident," Hathcock said with a quiet nod. "They think we're scared to follow, that they've crushed our will." As afternoon wore on, the trail took them uphill toward a ridge that overlooked the valley. It was a textbook sniper spot. Wide view, easy cover. "Movement," Land breathed, freezing in place. Hathcock lifted his binoculars. There, 5 shapes moving along the ridge, about 700 yards away. All women. And one of them had a profile he'd recognize anywhere. Even from this distance, there was no doubt. It was her. The group paused near a rocky outcrop, and the woman motioned to the others, clearly giving quiet instructions. "That's her," Hathcock whispered, lowering his binoculars and lifting his rifle. Land flipped open a small notebook, doing quick calculations for range, wind, and elevation. Winds about 5 miles per hour. Uphill shot. Hathcock made careful adjustments to his scope, dialing in every factor Land mentioned. His breathing slowed, focus narrowing until all that remained was the crosshairs and the lone figure inside them. "Wait," Land said, resting a hand on his shoulder. "She's moving." Sure enough, the group was shifting, and Apache stepped away from the others toward some bushes. She slung her rifle behind her, crouching slightly. "She's taking a piss," Land noted. "Perfect. She's separated from the group." This was the moment. Apache, the most feared woman in Vietnam, briefly alone, exposed, and out of cover. Hathcock took a long, steady breath, then slowly exhaled. At the calm space between heartbeats, he squeezed the trigger. The shot rang out through the jungle. The second shot came just as she tried to crawl away. Her body jolted, then went still, her face turned toward the darkening sky. Land was already calling in coordinates over the radio. Moments later, artillery fire rained across the ridge. The jungle roared with thunder as shells ripped through the trees, wiping out any chance of counterattack. As the echo of explosions faded, silence returned to the ridge. Hathcock and Land moved in slowly, rifles ready, eyes scanning the wreckage. Bodies were scattered among broken trees and smoking craters, the remains of the strike. But Hathcock's focus locked on one figure lying off to the side, Apache. She hadn't moved. Her eyes were still open, staring at nothing. In death, she looked oddly peaceful, just a woman of 31, her sharp features hiding any trace of the fear she had caused. Her Mosin Nagant lay beside her, its wood worn smooth from years of use. "It's done," Hathcock said quietly. When they returned to Hill 55, news of Apache's death moved quickly through the ranks. For the first time in weeks, the Marines felt like they could breathe again. The most terrifying woman of the Vietnam War was gone, but the fear she had stirred, the damage she had done to their minds, that would take longer to fade. Did you already know about this woman? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And if you found this story powerful, please like, share, and subscribe for more true accounts like this. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.